The rocks. Now I know there's some controversy about that, but that's only for pristine area. Mind you, I'm standing on the banks of the Great Miami, and we're just lucky that it's as clean as it is today. So I think me taking the rocks that are already there, putting them up, I'm not disturbing any little sublife. But anyway, so I'm very conscientious about that. So just because I stack them because they give me a moment to just be in the moment. As soon as I get distracted, the rocks fall over. And there's not very many things and places and times in my day-to-day life that I'm just in absolutely that moment. I've been practicing meditation, and unfortunately I get intruded, because the rocks don't fall, so I forget that I've started daydreaming or thinking about this or that I have to do. But when I'm doing the rocks, as soon as they start going, I know that I forgot to pay attention. So rocks mean a lot to me, but all things in nature mean a lot to me. I feel their energy, I feel the earth, I feel the tree trunks, and all of that together really just feeds me. So a lot of my work that reflects my experiences in nature, or at least how I feel about them. They're not all necessarily photorealistic paintings either. I have some that are just expressions of how I feel about it. So that rounds me out. That gives me peace. That gives me the fuel to keep working. And it reminds me that I'm not chasing the dollar or chasing the next layer or level of artist world. That what I truly am, as I mentioned, that my truth is what makes me feel good. So that's how I'm going to approach the rocks. I think the relationship between the water, the paper, the brush works well for me. I remind myself that it's not just Rusty the artist, Rusty's brain, I should really put it that way, that makes this happen. I like creating textures. I do think about values and temperatures. I'm reminded that things that are warm, closer to the yellows, closer to the suns, come forward, and things that are cooler recede. So I play a lot with the color temperature. I'm reminded that value, the light to dark, really adds to the story. I like creating depth. It's one of the things that I enjoy seeing come out of my artwork. So when I paint these things, it's a whole lot less than what the object is, and I'm enjoying this whole process. And I enjoy what's happening, even if what is happening isn't what I wanted to have happen. Watercolor, right? Sometimes, I fix it, or but I take note of it because it's something that I might want to have on purpose somewhere else. You're the winner. So, right. A building, I can't get by with so much with a building, those kind of structures. But the things of nature, I just remind myself that we are all part of nature, that I am part of nature, and this works for me. This is a section, I printed this up, of a piece that I did for the Boonshoft Museum. They have a woodland trail that goes around, and they are expecting to put up signs that are like, they're going to be on the metal, but they have taken my paintings. I'll tell you more about the painting, and it's like a book. They printed them up. It looks like a book is open on this sign. One side has prompts, and it's like my artwork is an illustration, like an old style illustration that you would see in the book. And I did go ahead and crop off part of this because this tells a better part of the story. I think that would get lost. It fits in that. But like one of the prompts, when kids come up with their parents to this little sign, it says, about looking for the ants. And so I have ants in here. And the cool thing about this painting was those ants here, if you look closer, they're there. I've got the violet. I had just been along the river the day before they gave me a list of prompts. There were like 9, but one of them was the ants. So this is the first one that I did because I had just taken pictures of the ants and this violet right there in the rocks. So it related back to my experience, which means a lot more to me than just painting something cold, right? I'm sure you all understand how you feel when you're really relating or bringing something. If I have to paint something that I really don't have an experience with or a relationship, I make up stories. Because it feeds me differently, and I think it comes out differently. So I tell myself stories, and I don't know, some of them probably should have been written down, but I forget them. Rock's a rock. Unless, of course, it's, you know, like a mount, some kind of monument, then you might need to have the rocks more like it. But I don't actually paint the rocks in the beginning, and you'll see that. I paint what's behind them, so then I can come and then paint the rocks. So what you see here around these rocks here, that's what I paint first. And that's where I start here. And then the rocks, you know, we're hardwired. It's got a name, and I just heard it yesterday, and I already can't remember it. You know how we're hardwired, you see faces in wallpaper, in the dirt. We're hardwired that way because as a baby, we need to see a human face to know that we're safe. So that's why we see faces everywhere. Well, when I'm looking at what I'm going to show you, I begin to see the rocks. So then I begin to paint around them. So I'll start with that. So I'm gonna start with a style that's like this. I'm gonna go ahead and sit down. I said I didn't need to sit down, but I think it'll be better. So I have a very warm sheet. And this is my order. I just create these textures on these papers, and I overpaint them. I'm gonna demo making this, but I overpaint them so that I can crop them as I need it, which is really a saving practice in a lot of my work, because sometimes I get just a little bit off from my composition. I get lost in it. So if I overpaint it just a little bit, if it needs to be an 8 by 10, I paint 11. I don't know, I paint a 12 by something. I don't know, maybe a little bigger than that. But anyway, so that allows me this room to make adjustments. So then I'll develop this. I'll find the shapes, just like I'm looking for faces in the wallpaper, and then I begin to find the rocks.
You need to align that.
Oh, thanks.
Would it be better if that were closer to you?
Yeah, I can't.
I can move the table up.
That's when, yeah.
Is that?
I'm zoomed in as
There you
far as
go.
I can.
Let's. Could you grab that side? There we go. That's perfect. I'm not too close, am I? I promise not to splatter. Well, that's not true. I can't promise, but I'll try.
Oh, you can't splatter like we've been splattering sometimes.
So, and then this is like the color of river rocks, for real, the muddy ones. So this is very warm, and I haven't entirely developed this, but you see how I began playing with the light values, and there's got a little leaf popping in here. I'm going to come back to this. I started working on a cooler one. I felt like the cooler one kind of would come across as a little bit brighter. So I'm going to make this. I'm going to start out with this, then I'm going to set it aside, and then I'm going to move over to this. But how about if I like painting, I said I like to stack rocks, so I like to paint stacked rocks. And I do collect minerals, so if I'm lucky, they'll look like one of my minerals. And I think this looks like some polished amethyst. And this was a jasper. This is an, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I don't know what the others are, but I can guarantee you that if I took them to a rock shop, somebody will tell me what they are because they've seen a rock that shape, that color. Okay. I work with Arches 140 weight paper. I'm just going to do a couple of these kind of quick. My paints, I just have a really weird palette. I've known Rosie for a long time. I met Rosie when I was like the big-eyed artist, like the world, you all are so big to me. And I still see you all that way. So I get a little nervous. I'm like, what can I offer to this group that they don't already know? Because, you guys are the Western Watercolor Society, and I've seen your exhibits, But But I forget where I was going with that. Oh, so, but everything I am is kind of off and weird compared to traditional stuff. This is my palette. I mean, I have a bigger one, but the only difference between this one and my regular one is I have 2 spots for Windsor yellow and 2 spots for the cobalt blue, because I like to mix my greens and I like to mix my reds, and I keep my yellow clean. But this is the one that I work with online, and I don't get it confused with any of the others I have for classes because they got little dots on them. I'm simple with the water. I have more modest, more simple spray bottles than this, but this is telling you I'm a professional because I got a good one, right? I'm going to use salt for the textures, and I'm sure all of you have used salt for textures. I'm not telling you something that you haven't done, but so hopefully you know that every different kind of salt will give you a different blossom. That's what I think that's what they're called. That's what I call them. I'm telling you, I learned my craft under a rock. Speaking of rocks, right? So I'm me. And I don't always know what's out there for everybody else. But I have a turquoise, I have an indigo, cobalt blue, I have a phthalo violet, burnt sienna. I call this a hot pink, but it's an opera, it's polyholbein. I do not use alizarin crimson, I use a rose madder from Grombacher, because alizarin crimson is staining and a lot of my work is lifting and moving colors around. I have a Windsor red and a Windsor yellow. And, you know, I'm pretty happy with all that. So I just always like to share, because my palette's so limited that sometimes I have Drouet watercolor pencils and Drouet Inktense on hand, because if I need an off little color for an area, I go get it off of my pencil. And that way I have all the colors I need and still in my budget, because, you know, it lasts quite a while. Okay, so let me put my glasses on. So I'm just going to get a few of these spaces wet for stacked blocks. And the thing is, I don't really draw them first, because I draw them and then they're not, I don't, my water doesn't behave, and then I have pencil lines. So the brushes that I'm using, I get most of my brushes from Scharf. This is a number 4 round Scharf. This is a synthetic round, and it's a good brush. I scrub a lot. So my fine natural hair brushes, I have them, but I scrub a lot, and my paper does eat them up. But like this brush is only like $11 or $12 online. But if you buy them online, they're 30% off. I'm not a representative. I'm just telling you that they really hold up well for all the scrubbing that I do with them. But these are the same. This one is also a Scharf. It's called it's a super round. They call it an aqua. It's kind of a thin mop, right? So it's going to serve me well to put the colors on that. So I'm gonna put water down for my first rock, and they tend to be sort of round. The good thing is they don't have to be, because I don't have to be perfect here. Right? So I've got that there. How about if I get some of my violet and mix a little bit of my burnt sienna with it? Give myself something. I make up names for it. It's sort of like a burnt umber kind of look. So I have it in here. The wet and wet technique allows me to have value shifts right in the space without me having to do the work. I like that, so I'm gonna just come up around the edges. Just a little bit to give it. Rocks do not generally have fuzzy edges, so. And I love watching it. I can paint all day, and I'm like, oh wait, I do. I paint all day. One form or another. Or talk about it or something. So there I go, I got my nice little potato. I'm going to use a sea salt on this one. I keep a tin, a little basket, so to speak, of the different salts. So I'm just going to drop some of those on that. And I don't know, back in the day when Evelyn Staub was talking about dropping in salt, I'm like, well, when do you put in salt? She's like, that's the question. So, okay. So I'm going to skip up above it a little bit. I'll use this one next time. Oh, I have a table saw. Mm-hmm.
Could you put your palette so we can see your palette?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
There we
perfect.
go.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to give it a little space, and then I'm going to pop up here. I don't know. Just going to release some paint at a diagonal here. I'm going to put a little rock underneath there a little bit. So how about if I get some of my yellow and get a little of my cobalt? Put a little bit of this neutral in there. These rocks are just full of interesting colors. And then I'm going to move up here, and I tend to do 5, right? 5 or 7. That's the rule, and I'm going to do it. Okay. So I'm going to come up. I'm going to give myself a round one up here, and then I'll come back in a little while. I'm going to do some reds. I'm going to put some red, a little rose madder. It doesn't mind not being a lizard crimson. I tell it it's just an orphan color. And it doesn't have to be sad. It's not like anybody else. On everybody else's palette. I'm going to put a little bit of Payne's Gray in that. I'm just making this stuff up today, so. Just letting the color play in the water, let it interact. I want a little more value in that. So I'm going to put some Payne's Gray up there. There we go. Sprinkle a little water in it. Let that push that all away. Boom. Okay. I'll come back to this little guy in a few minutes. When the, you know, like you think that's not a rock, but go to a rock shop, they'll tell you it is. I do paint photorealistic minerals for in oils, and I attend as a demonstrating artist to the in May the Geo Fair in Cincinnati. I've been published in the Rock Mineral magazine. I forget what it's called. 2014. Anyway, let's go to the other side. We'll come back to them. Okay. So, are we good?
There you go.
Okay. And are we good? Very good. So I'm just gonna throw in my colors. I don't care that there's color in my water either. So it's gonna be okay. I'm gonna just get this wet. I like spraying when I'm getting my backgrounds wet, especially along the edges. Now I'm gonna blend the colors in. But one of the things I like that accidentally happens, I'm gonna do it with the indigo, is that if I have and I like, I'm looking back here at Shirley because we talked about inks a little bit. I really like doing these with inks. If you spray them and you don't touch the paper, and when you spray, you get this really very lacy look. Okay, does it show up? Yeah, good. So I just barely touch. I have enough moisture, water in my brush, as in wet paint, to touch this so that it gives you this really lacy look. And then I leave it. I'm not going to do that now, but that's a great texture for a rock. But I use it in other places. So in my mind, that when I spray my paper, there's going to be some places that'll just accidentally get that lacy look. So I let what happens here happens. I want this one to be cool because that's what I'm going to develop. Cool temperature, so I'm going to get some of my cobalt blue. I do have a little bit of warmth in it. Anyway, so let me drop that in. A little bit of that violet mixture that I have playing over here the violet and the burnt sienna. I love glazing when you put a wet color over a dry color. So there's a lot of glazing developing these. Oh, let's put a little of this cooler red in there. Okay. I don't really care that much about where anything is here, because it really just gets lost in the process. I'm gonna drop a little bit more of that green mixture. So I use, you know, you saw the colors that I made up here, so might as well put them in here. I'm good with that. I don't usually throw turquoise in here, but let's do it for us. You're not going to see me finish it out today anyway, so I can do anything I want in this color. No, I don't usually throw turquoise in the background, but it's pretty. But I will develop this. So I'm a little bit of out of balance with something a little more weighted down here. I'm going to use a little bit of my paint gray. Yeah. So I look for, in all seriousness, I do look for a little bit of balance of temperature and kind of setting me up for value in the background. Then I go for the salts. Ooh, lots of salts. I like throwing in table salt, which I think I have over here. You get some.
I can get you some.
Okay, thanks. Because I'll use them a few times. If I find that I have an area, and you know, sometimes I do it on purpose, that has too much color in a place, I'll take the water and I'll splatter it. See, that's why I can't make any real promises. I splatter the water on it. As you know, if you sprinkle, it's a blossom. If you blast, you lose your texture. I mean, you don't lose your texture, but you lose a lot of color on that spot. You'll see that happen a little bit. There we go. So, then you have to wait. Oh, look how I look back at that a little bit. That's how I look back at this guy. Yeah, if I have to wait somewhere, I'll come and add something. He's about there. This was this is the bottom of a creek that when I come back and develop this is all the rocks that's going to be here. This is going to actually be let me do a little green stuff. So a lot of things happen with the textures and so on. So I can't say I really do them first, but I did with this one. So there's a lot of green stuff that's going to happen. Back up around here. There's water that's coming around those rocks. See how I scrub? That's why I can't afford to keep replacing my Kolinsky hairbrushes. So I kept the ones that I ruined, of course. They're good for doing pet portraits. So yeah, the little wiry hair and all that, yeah. Yeah, they're really good for that. There we go. So, you see, I'm just going to pull that right into the rocks, right down through there. But, you know, I'm telling you guys some things that no doubt you know. So, I'm not telling you because I don't think you know. I'm just telling you what runs through my head. I want this one to be cooler back here. These little trees or whatever they're going to grow up and be back here. So I'm not telling you anything you don't know. These need to be cooler, and probably a little less defined. There we go. This is what makes the paintings, brings us in and allows us to get out. So there you go. But once these things, oh, I got a blossom. Once these things begin to happen and you begin to add them, then you see the rock's characteristics. You start seeing them having personality. And you can make those adjustments when you get in here. I think this one wants to have a little moss on it. So there we go. It's got some moss. But you know, I can wipe it off. Doesn't work. That's the thing. People say you can't fix watercolors. Watch me. Oh my God. You know, something bad happens. All right. So I'm seriously going to paint now. We'll come back to these two guys. And I'm happy to answer questions, and you know, you don't have to just wait all the way to the end. But so you see where I overpainted whatever my space is going to be. This is some amazing texture. I'm looking. If these don't turn into rocks up here, I think these are going to be like some great mums or some kind of flower thing up here. So I don't have to worry about what it wants to be when it grows up. So I'm going to start here. So this is the one that I have kind of, yeah, this one I want. Sorry. So I'm looking at it, and I can't see anything that wants to be a rock. I really can't. So I'm not going to be stressed with myself about it. I'm just going to kind of get myself the thinnest amount. Now, the one that I pointed to that I did for the museum, I did have my rock images there. But that's because I had it, you know. That's a dumb thing to say. But I can start finding shapes here. I never paint around a rock. Never paint around it. All you're going to do is outline it. So I paint under them. And then if there's rocks above the one I've just painted, then I'm going to paint under that rock. That way it never picks up that halo kind of look. So I'll start here. And I'm just using a thin indigo. So let me have a look. I don't know what this is, but I think it wants to be painted. But now, as soon as I did that, can you see what popped up here? It's like a little stack of rocks here. So I'm going to abandon that line. Come down here. And I'm just using a thin indigo. I like using the indigo. It's a dark inky blue. But it allows me to really adjust it with a lot of other colors. Every color I have, even if I mix the burnt sienna with it, I'm going to get a muted color. A lot of the grays that I go for, I know I have Payne's Gray. That's really new, and I rarely have a Payne's Gray, but I love the grays that I can get with my cobalt blue and my burnt sienna. I really do. There we go. Just some of the best muted grays ever. I don't even really need to have the burnt sienna, but now I'm painting under this one. If you really needed to have rocks sketched out, you know, you can, of course you can do that, but there we go. They're rocks. I already have rocks. This is where I, inside myself, like, thank you for letting rocks show up. Because there we go. These are areas that as I go, I may or may not drop in a little salt in them. Let them be what they, just kind of let them get some textures in there. You can't wait to go back, and it won't hurt anything for me to have them. I usually have it taped down. That's okay. I like this color too, with a little violet in it. Because I work with such a limited palette, of course, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, because I work with such a limited palette that my colors just work together because they live together. So here we go. It's a little darker than I want. It's not a problem.
Have you always had a fascination with rocks?
I'm not one of those kids that go back and said that I collected rocks, but so I'm going to say not like that. But since I started doing my river rocks a few years ago, my river walks a few years ago, they became more important to me, and they appeal to what I like, the way I like to paint. You know, to find it and pull it out and push it back. The painting that I absolutely love had a lot of mulch in it, and that's when I learned about not that I knew what the words were, but the glazing and coming back and painting over areas to develop to develop little spaces like this. And you know, and whatever texture is there when you paint over it, it stays there because, you know, watercolor is transparent. So you can go ahead and paint over it, and this texture just keeps showing up because it's there, and then you kind of develop that. So that's the part that appeals to me. I don't. The mineral paintings was a fluke. Why I did it, and how I ended up getting connected with that. But I like everything else that goes with rocks too. I like the water. I like the trees. I like the grasses. They are the earth, you know. I don't know. We have a way of thinking that rocks can just be discarded. Well, they're already here. I mean, you know, they're not a plastic bottle. You know, they are part of what we walk on. Just we walk on the big one. So I have a certain amount of reverence for them, and they're really fascinating when you start getting into the mineral world. You know, what makes them, and you know, they are one thing with one little extra mineral in it. You know, and then they're a completely different thing if they're like the smoky quartz versus the amethyst, which is a quartz, which is the white quartz that we're used to seeing when we call them quartz. So they're pretty fascinating. The calcites, which is a quartz with stuff in it, and so on, related quartz stuff. So they fascinate me now. It's not something that I really to say that I used to be, but it's knowledge, it's experience and knowledge now. And the challenge for painting them is that they have to be, for the really high-end ones, they have to be mind-specific. So I have to know what happens in that mind, what they look like when they come out. And like I can't just, it's a fluorite, but an expert mineral person comes along and I'm like, oh, it's a fluorite, you know, well, what mine does it come from? I'm like, I don't know. It's a green one, which is either a Carusa or Elmwood or something.
Do you ever scrape paint off with like a credit card or anything?
I don't scrape paint off with a credit card. I do, however, add paint with a credit card. Okay. I use the point, which
colors and scrape them off.
That's how you get your textures. Sometimes that's fair. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that feeling of scraping off. It's
because I used to oil paint and use palette knives, so you know, you build rocks up when you do see like real rocks.
You see, I'm having, you know, these rocks are here having a good time. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna splatter in here, just right in here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Let me have a feeling. This one looks like it wants to be a square rock. Really. Let's see if I'm wrong. Because if I'm wrong, it gets to be round. It is a round rock. I'm painting under rocks. So here's a rock, and yeah, I don't usually have to scrape. I've done a few watercolor landscapes where I've come in and I've scraped some paint back to get like white trees and stuff at the back. So when I start out seeing the rocks, I know that when I see, you know, this is kind of looking down on them. A lot of them I'm looking, this one's kind of looking more to the side of them this way. But no matter what, by the time I get up here with rocks, I won't have that same view. It's like the, you know, the horizontal thing. I'll have a different view of the rocks up here than what I had down here. So I'm aware of that. So yeah, this one wants to be a square rock. Now the question is this rock over him? Yeah, I think so. I'm going to put a little warmer color over that. So now I'm going to be able to come back and give this rock some texture. I like it, but it's too much. Okay. So this is how I'm going to develop the whole painting. Yeah. Okay. This guy's already dry, so I can come in now. What I want to just do is kind of demonstrate down through here. I have a lot of little textures that have happened that I've talked about. So I want to reinforce them now as if I had painted. And I rarely paint all the rocks out. I paint so far and then I come back in and start doing this. So under here, Painting, still painting under. Now, whatever these spots are down here, they're going to show up because I have transparent watercolor. So whatever I do in here, they're still going to be. So I'm playing with the warm and cool temperatures again, putting a little warm one on that rock. It's tedious. See how now I have that rock here without having painted. And here's another rock that's, I'm seeing the side of it coming down, and I'm painting under the rock. That's the key, because if you start painting around them, you're just going to have round circle stuff. Not a technical word, by the way. This rock is irregular over here. So I'm going to give him a kind of an irregular spot right here. So I see two more rocks up there. So you see how they're coming out? How about right there, a little bit of green right into this one. Little dry brush. Little dry brush will work for him. Okay. Where did my, all these guys. Okay. So you see what's happened here. I'm going to get a little bit of my indigo. I'm going to ground it. Here. Couldn't do it before, of course, because just would have wicked up in that. Now I can come in with another rock. Let's see. Let's go with this neutral color I have back here. Okay. I added the color, but it really is going to be a wet and wet piece. Boy, this one's going to have to be pretty clever to keep it from falling over. I'm going to do a little bit of wet and wet with it. So this is how I get some of these textures that I have that are here. This was all salt texture. And it was blue, cobalt blue and a little bit of indigo, and I salted it. And I ran the salt like a little trail. So it pooled, instead of dissolving and pushing away the color, it pooled the color. So I have that little trail right there. So I can drop these colors. I don't have very much water in my brush when I do this. But I get these textures by just gently dropping in some of these other colors right into that. How about the little violet? Since I have violet in every one of the others, I want to put it in there some kind of way. I do want to keep it kind of this bluish color though. I'm not going to overdo this guy and come back and give him, I'm going to work with some of the textures that are there. Oh no, he's going to fall over. That's kind of pretty much the same color. I'm going to drop some water in there and move those colors around. See how it's pushing it away? And I'll end up with rock shapes. Okay, so I'm going to do a triangle shape in there. Let's see. And if I don't know, here we go. Sometimes I try to do them like they're minerals or like the chakras. There we go. How about if I let that one? Just drop a little bit of this. See how that just softly, it'll give me textures. A lot of times I don't go in and change them. Not for these guys. I'm pretty happy with that. It's a nice contrast to have them in there. We'll see. We'll see what I do. Where was I? Okay. Let's go back to this one now. He's getting drier. He's just damp enough for me to come in with colors like this. So So I'm doing these guys, this guy, so you can kind of see how the rocks, these are the same kind of rocks, the same techniques I would use on the rocks that I may not get too far into doing today. So I wanted you to see how the different ways you can get textures in these rocks. I splattered water on this one, like I did this one. And that one, I guess. I can go back and look at them. I like them. I'm not that judgy. Yeah. So here we go. How about if I come up here and find a bigger one? I do think a little bit about composition, but they're rocks. So, I do think a little bit about it. I try to find a path, but they're rocks, and so I don't think the rocks are that easy to tell them that they have to be like the focal point. So, or have to, or a design element that I'm following through with the S. They're rocks. So I have to, add other things to them. So this is a much bigger painting. So there was something down here, but they're rocks, and I love them. I hope you guys, when you go in, I'm painting under this. There we go. I'm glazing. These colors are not really dry, but they're dry enough for me to come back in and paint. If you do watercolor, you know that you have to give it some time to do its thing. Oh look, I've got a rock that's underneath that rock. I'm just going to leave things like this hanging out there. I can always paint over them. I can always put water on them and scrub them and tell them,
Where'd it go?
yeah, you don't have to be in this one. They don't behave. I just get out my scissors. They really don't have feelings. They're rocks. But I feel their stories. I mean, not that I really feel that they have stories, but I mean, I'm in this moment and I'm enjoying whatever's going to happen down here. These guys are so milky.
Pretty.
You have a little turquoise down through here, and I added a dry leaf here, and so I start putting more of the organic material in there. Got a little turquoise up there. Just gonna play in it. Hope it's not too slow for you.
So you don't necessarily take pictures, or do you sometimes? I mean, for reference.
I do have tons. You think I've never seen a rock before, the way I keep taking pictures of trillium, taking pictures of poppies and rocks. And I take them every spring like I have never taken pictures of trillium and poppies before. I'm the same with the rocks. Yeah, I have a lot of photos. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll see a lot of my river walks. So, but, if I looked at my photo reference for this one, I don't know why. It's because I had just taken it, I guess. But, so yeah, sometimes I do. I'll put a little of this color up there.
But the way you paint now, it's just so spontaneous and intuitive.
I've learned to see the rocks there. And I've learned to accept what happens. So as I'm developing these little areas here, yeah, I suppose that's true. This rock really has a need to be popping out, so. There we go, I'm gonna add water to it. Coming back up through there. And I will develop a depth to it by giving some of these guys, especially as I'm starting to see more sides of them, I will give them their edges. As I came in, to give them their roundness. Right now they're still kind of flat. Although I feel like by me playing with the temperatures under them, I'm giving them depth right into the mud or whatever it is that they're doing. But eventually I'll have to give them, that's a nice little one right there. So now this rock is no longer one great big space. He's going to be a bunch of little ones. I got distracted because I was like, see, look at the little ones. It's just so important not to paint around them. But you can paint the shadow that's above them.
You say you do a lot of glazing. How many layers do you think does it depend, or?
I suppose, but I can do seven to 10, and they're thin. They're thin because I don't want to, I never want it to be thick, so they're thin, and I want whatever texture is still showing through to keep showing through. I mean, definitely as it gets, I paint cooler, usually when I'm in the glazing, because I'm pushing things back. So, yeah, I could 3 to 10, I would say, but they're always thin. They're always thin. So this guy still wants to be a square rock.
I've got so many unfinished rock paintings myself that I'm going to go back and redo them.
That's great. You know, don't be afraid to get the whole thing just wet like this when you're ready to come back and do them. You can soften them all up and then let this, you know, glaze over them with cleaner water than what I'm doing with the course. But just go ahead and do this. You're not going to hurt anything. They're going to settle down into your paper, and then you can begin again without trying to rework the rock before. So this isn't going to change this. It's just that if I had just had clear water, which, you know, I don't care about that, but it'll settle the whole thing down. Otherwise, you're going to paint on the painting.
I tend to add too much paint.
Well, that's something you'll adjust to. But if you glaze it with, and I consider the water glazing. If you glaze it with water, whatever the surface paints are will also settle in. So you're not adding paint on paint. I mean, you are, but you're not dealing with the paint that might have still feel like it's on the surface. You know, you do that a lot. And
one question. When you put the salt, I mean, after you put the water, the color, you have to immediately put the salt, right? Otherwise, the salt will be not mute. There will be like the sand is there.
Immediate is a little too simplified, because if you have too much water, the salt will dissolve and just blend into the water, and you won't get a blossom, and so you'll get nothing for that effort. So it needs, ideally, it's not a bubble of water, not too wet. It's hard to know. It really is hard to know when. But sometimes I think that I'm looking for it to, there's a shine and then there's a sheen. And it's just at the shift of the sheen that I probably get the most if I'm real wet. So it's just about practicing. And if you have too much water and you do it, just wait 3, 4, 5 minutes and then throw the salt on it again, and maybe you'll get them. They're very temperamental. And nobody knows really the secret, because the moisture in the air, it's like with watercolor, the moisture in the air can affect it. Everything affects it. If you got air blowing and all that. So it's just about good luck. These were each a salt blossom that I threw into that. There, did I point that out already? This was a shot. This is sprinkled salt. Then I came through and gave it little striations, and this was where I blasted it in the middle with salt. I don't know, I got a little salt there. Sometimes I get salt where I don't want it, you know. Can you imagine that? It's a rock, so it's always okay. No matter what, it's a rock. So I'm going to come back in and keep, I like these little spaces that I have, little grainy looking things. And I can come back and I can brighten them up.
Yeah.
I just brighten them up. Yeah, Bob Ross has happy trees. I can have happy rocks.
I like it.
Yeah.
I've never heard rocks personalized so much before.
I think everything we paint should be personalized.
It's true.
We'll enjoy the painting more and be less frustrated because of the imperfections that we accept in ourselves. If we accept them in our subjects, then we get along better. I've never had a rock I didn't get along with.
Well, if you did, you could just throw it at somebody.
No, when we were in Europe, every country I went to, I'd always take an extra suitcase
So you can bring back rocks?
Yeah, my husband would be fed up of paying breaks for rocks.
If
It's
you,
way too
oh,
heavy in
yeah.
a suitcase.
Yeah, well, you have to be careful with some places you go, like some of the state parks, you're not allowed to take their rocks out. And I'm a rule follower. Just like, I never stole a rock in my life.
In Carrara in Italy, the whole beaches are full of white granite rocks, all different shapes.
So what I just did, I'll do this right up through here. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and tap it, with your paper towel, or some of you probably do this with maybe some saran wrap or something. If you have an area that's kind of bigger and you don't have much in the way of texture, just make it. So, yeah, so now I have texture up in that space. So how about if I go ahead and develop these rocks a little bit? It's pretty much the way I did this over there. Now I'm going to use some brighter colors. When I did the ones with the really warm colors, they're like the colors of muddy water, along the river, and that's what that's like. And it would be easy for me to, this would be good. It would be easy for me to come back and add, like a crawdad there or something, because it kind of looks like it wants to be one. Right. But these guys, I used them much cooler, so I can really do a lot more with the warmer colors. So I'm gonna get my rose madder, which I've already apologized to it for not being listed. And take a little bit of my yellow. I like to work with New Gamboge too, but I don't have room for it. I just don't worry about. I can make it. So here we go. I'm going to come up with a little bit of a New Gamboge here. It's more yellow. Get the green out. There we go. So I kind of learned to paint by myself under a rock. That's a good color. That's a real good color. I'll pull that out. Put a little bit more of this little hot pink in it. There we go. So I'm going to make a along, the Great Miami River is my reference, and I'm going to pull that color right down under it a little bit. And there's some granite. A lot of granite shows up in our river because the river tracks has, let me just get this warm. There's still some little salt hanging out in there. But the river tracks are lined with granite. So we have a lot of pretty pink and green stones along our river. So I'm using this violet and burnt sienna, the mixture that I had for this texture in here, and it works real well with this muted yellow. It's rock. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and work with this one that I said that wants to be a square. It's got a crack in it. See the crack? Mm-hmm. So let's just go ahead and work with that. I'm going to work with a dry brush. So I have too much water in here to really get a good dry brush. So I'm just going to use I've got ahead, I've got my water, got my paint, and I'm pretty happy with whatever is going to come out of this. So I'm just going to fold up my paper towel, take my hill right next to the ferrule, wick out some of the water, so I don't lose my paint. Let's go see if I can get a nice little dry brush look. Yeah, there we go. This little rock sitting on top of it. This rock is too, so I'm painting under it. So I don't want that much water, so I'm going to put a dot on my palette. Pick it up there. Don't want to deal with a lot of water here. So I'm going to get a little bit of cobalt blue mixed into that so it'll cool it off a little bit, because there you go. This still wants to be a square rock. So as I paint out, I begin to see the other rocks, so, and it helps being, the ADHD thing, because I'm like, oh, look, another rock. It's kind of boring watching somebody paint rocks if you're not also part comedian to make it happen. Okay, now, so I see where these two rocks, there's two here, not one. And, and I was painting over it, and there it is. There you go. And now I've got this little rock that wants to come up here. Give him a little.
It's kind of like a negative.
It is for me, yeah. Well, painting is for me. Yeah, I rarely get frustrated, rarely painting. My brain likes it, which is why I'm not so much out and about, I guess. I'm busy. Okay, so he's really gonna, in order for him to be that rock there, he really needs some depth. So let's go ahead and establish that in him. Okay, I'm gonna give him gonna ground him a little bit here.
Are all of your rocks male?
Have I referred to them all as male so far?
I think so.
Probably.
Are there any lady rocks?
I'm gonna have to search in my heart and deal with that issue. I'm not sure where that comes from. She could be a lady rock. She's a mineral though, so. Okay, look what has happened now that I've left all of this alone with this salt.
Oh, wow.
Now, the fun thing about this salt, because it's chunky, is that if let me show you. Let me show you the fun part about that being chunky. So my paints are two paints. I think you guys probably figured that out. So so I'll just go and spray this thing off later. Okay, I'm gonna put this right. He's trying to change positions on me. Okay, so I'm gonna put this green right here. I'll show you what I have in mind. Yeah. So you're seeing the depth now of the water that's kind of come down through this. Got some green stuff over there and some green stuff there. What I like about these chunky pieces is that they leave, the blossom. Hopefully it's wet enough. I think so. It's changing color. Shirley, that's one of the ways that you know if it's going to work or not, is if you put your salt, when you put your salt on the paint and it changes to the color of your paint, you've got a pretty good chance of it making a blossom. If it just disappears in there, I'm gonna put a little more paint down here. Then yeah, I think this is gonna work because it makes like a flower. So that's what this will do, and then I can turn those into little daisy-looking flowers or yellow flowers because they have a center. And that becomes the center, and then a flower, and then I develop it. Sometimes I'll just cover a sheet and sprinkle the salt on them, and then, because I have the green, right, I have all the greens, and so then I come back in and do the reds and the pinks and the purples, and I have a little flower garden coming up with that. Anyway, just stuff. Okay, I forget what I was doing. Back of the rock. Oh, it's giving him some depth.
Turn her into a lady.
Well, I have to think about that. So here I am. I don't really want all that color. Let's get some other colors in there. Okay. I just make some. So this guy, he's got. I know he wanted to have some cracks up there. He's got to be. This one's a he. There's no change in that. It's already been decided. But so look now. He's got no space over here. Okay. We'll come back up and give him more. Give him more a little bit. Okay. I do switch over and develop these. What I've done here, and I dropped down my color, and then I developed them. So just showing you different ways to use your rocks instead of just filling the sheet. Although this one's I'm very happy about. Okay. So this was all salted. So look at that, all that texture I have in there. Just going to use all my colors on here. And I do bounce around through them. I rarely ever have a rock that, I just finished to completion because I am aware of the balance of value, light and dark and so on. So I don't mind. I don't want to lose myself in trying to do one rock and then all the rest of them, then they don't have anything to be consistent about. I'm going to make this darker down through here. Oh look, I forgot, I saw this one here.
In England, all in northern England, the fields are made out of rocks. And they're all placed, and they're not cemented or anything, they're just all placed randomly into walls for all the fields.
Yeah, there's different places in the States that will have their rock walls, and they're just, it's beautiful.
Hadrian's Wall, the Roman walls like that.
Okay. So I'm going to pull a little more blue down here. You see how they're just
amazing,
pushing back and coming forward, pushing back and coming forward. And I know I'm not telling you guys things you really don't know, maybe just hadn't thought about, but the more colors you mix together, because they're rocks, you don't have to be stuck. You can add everything to it, because you're creating these neutrals in these spaces. In most cases, neutral rocks are neutral. So I have all these neutrals. And so they'll just, they'll tell me, which isn't really, they don't really talk to me, but they begin to have their value shifts and their temperature shifts and so on. So I'm just okay with all these colors because they're just going to work. And that doesn't happen much in most things we're painting. We have to be so controlled with the colors. Grass needs to have 4 or 5 colors to make it grass, and grass really isn't green, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you have a palette that's a mess. It's okay, just make you some rocks, clean it up, use it. I'm going to give these rocks here that are in the water a little bit of value into the water, a little shadow space here in the water. He needs a little depth. Yeah, apparently all my rocks are these. I never thought about that. Well, I don't usually talk about them either. I'm sitting here painting them wherever I happen to be painting and not usually having a conversation about them.
Well, at least not out loud.
I do feel it.
Sure.
Don't make fun of me. Your next meeting, be like, yeah, let's rocks. And I'm okay with that, really. I mean, I'm okay with talking to the rocks. I don't quite know how I feel about you making fun about me after I leave, but don't tell me. Ignorance is indeed bliss.
That is lovely.
Yeah, so there's a little water. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. And I don't have to know today. There we go. This color's just gorgeous. And whatever is under them, whatever texture, I know I say it over and over, but whatever texture is under them, I'm going to come over here and get some of the greens. Put it right here. And I didn't like that it was a pointy rock, so I'm just going to knock it back. Just scrub it right over it. It's going to be grass anyway, of some sort. Hear it? Mm-hmm. I know, that's why I ruined my good brushes.
Have you ever tried to paint a moon rock?
Paint what?
A moon rock?
I did not, but I painted sliced meteorite for an artist. The meteorite has the same mineral that we get out of the volcano in Hawaii. Owlite? It's not a howlite. Ovalene. Ovalene? I think it's ovalene. Ovalene or ovalene. Not like the drink, but it's close to it. But I painted, he had slices, and that mineral is in that, so it's kind of like, not a honeycomb as in like the shape, the octagon. It's like, whatever six-sided shape it is. Yeah, it's not like the honeycomb, but it was combed like that, and then there was like the metals, because there are a lot of metal, and then so it had the metals, and then it had these little irregular round spaces that kind of wonky oval shapes and oval round shapes. So, but no, not a moon rock. I could paint a moon rock and call it a moon rock, and nobody would know the difference. Right? Yeah. Oh, it's a moon rock. Okay, so I'm going to come up here just a little bit to develop this into a little bit more into, maybe I'm going to do a little bit of a waterfall right above here. And you know I'm making it up, right? So I'm just going to do a little bit of a waterfall that's coming back here behind these rocks. And I'll develop that up there a little bit better. Oh, there we go. I'm going to scrub this out. So it'll be like fuzzy where the water's hitting it. Right here. Then I'll come under and develop a little bit of blue underneath there. And, oh look. So here I've got some water escaping down this way. I still haven't figured out what to do with this guy. Maybe he just wants water over me. Little dry brush. So you see how now I have a little bit of waterfall, and some of this water's coming right down underneath this rock. I need to make a decision about him. You know what I'm going to do? Okay. I'm going to get a little bit of my indigo, whatever colors happen to be there. I am going to destroy it. It's my rock. Look, now he's just a rock. I liked his shape, his little plain shape before. Now he's just going to be a potato rock. Yeah, he's a big rock. But he's going to work better than the shape I had. It just didn't work. He'll get lighter. This is a good time to put some, oh yeah, I got some table salt. This would be a good time to put some salt on it. Come back and see what textures I have with it. In the meantime, we're looking pretty good with those guys. This isn't finished activating yet, so, but you see that I'll have that for you in a few minutes. I'm not aware of the time. only been doing this 20 minutes? Oh, no. Have a,
An hour.
an hour? Okay. All right. I hope that you felt like it was worth your time. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's been fascinating.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. And I'll stay up here. I mean, if you want to ask general questions, I'm happy to do that. Answer them, or if you want to come up and see my mess privately. Thank you.